I have written two functions. One is int reverse int num. So int num are the arguments. That is, it expects a value uh, to be stored in a local variable num. So this is also a local variable. This is a local variable of the function reverse, and it expects an integer type here from the function uh, which will call this one, and it will return a value of integer type. So this is the logic. So logic is simple. So this is the num, and this is rev, and the reverse number is getting stored in rev, and I am returning rev. And this is another function, is palindrome. So the function which Anmol showed me is actually printing that it is a palindrome or not. But this here, I've not done that. I have only done the check, and it is returning 1 if num is equal to reverse num. So it in turn calls the function reverse, REVERSE. This is the one, and reverse will return. Reverse num will return the reversed version of num. So in place of this, the compiler will basically write rev internally. So if num is equal to rev, then it is a palindrome, right? So then it will return 1. Otherwise, it will return 0. So here I've fixed a number to this. So you can also, take the number as input from the user. Not a big deal. So I printed, reverse number. So the original number and the reverse number, and I have also checked if it is a palindrome or not. So let's execute this for the sake of completeness. So it will, sorry, yeah. So so it will print the number and the reverse number. Since it is a palindrome, and this will be same. So there is nothing about the logic here. The logic is very simple. So what is so special about functions? You see that how efficient. Okay. Yes. So there are a few things which I want to discuss with you. Firstly, someone wrote a code which is a solution to this question, which I'm discussing at this point of time, in which he used a global variable. So you see that this num, rev, everything can be a global variable also, right? So what is the point in passing them? You can simply write int like num here, right? Sorry. Int num here, and you can simply not pass the values, not pass anything, just call a function, it will change num. And maybe you can set rev. So it will take num from somewhere and it will store it in rev. So why are we taking the trouble of actually passing it to a particular function? So we are passing it, and the function is returning its value. Why are we taking the trouble of doing that? Since we have the global variable in C, you can always do that. But the thing is that like goto, I talked about goto, right? So there are few things which are not considered to be a part of good programming. So these are some prescriptions by the expert programmers. It is not a very good idea to use goto. Sorry, yes, of course, and it is not a good idea to use global variables. You can of course use some variables whose values need not be changed. For example, you can, so in one example I showed you, hash define say pi, 3.14, etc. So this is a constant which you don't need to change, because pi, the value of pi is a constant, right? So you cannot change it. So it is fixed. So you can declare this, and or you can use a global variable like float pi, something like that, so that it is accessible to all the functions. So apart from this, why are we not using a global variable? Look, you see that I talked about good sound programming, modular programming, these things in the last class, right? So I'm talking about this, industry standard, programming. So there is a very rich uh, subject in computer science that is called software engineering. So that is dedicated towards helping programmers to build a system in a particular language, say, and so that the system becomes uh, at par with industry standards. So what do I mean by industry standards? It should do the decomposition well and the recomposition well. It should do the deconstruction well and the reconstruction well. So what do I mean by that? The whole project should be efficiently subdivided into parts so that it can be allocated to the whole team, and it should be integrated back, and it should be basically the debugging should be easier. That's why we do this, modular programming, right? So what is there for, global variables in this context? So see that there are certain, so since it is not a software engineering class, I'm not going into the details, but there are a few concepts, thumb rules for creating the modules. By modules, I mean a function. Here it can be a function. One is something called, there is something called cohesion and coupling. So by coupling, we mean that the interactions between the functions should be limited to passing of important data. So what do I mean by important data? You see that it is possible that you are a part of a huge project. Suppose you are building a railway reservation system. It's a not only it is confidential, but also it is very important, right? And usually the projects are, not for fun, right? It is basically extremely tight, time bound. Lot of costs are associated with this. So you should be able to have a structure of a control body, or it can what's the term? So it's a control room. You take the example of a control room. So here the control room is main. So here, here is a task master who is assigning the tasks to different subgroups. So here the tasks are what? Reverse and is palindrome, for example. So it is passing the variable that is required, that is num, and it is getting back the desired result, right? If num was declared global, then it would have been visible to all the sub functions. So that, that is not that is not desired, right? That is not that cannot be desirable. So this can be very important data, and they can be basically redundant also. The other people, the other functions, other submodules may not be interested in the data, and also the data can be confidential. So that's why although it is allowed in C, it is not prescribed by the experts that the global variable should be used. And you see that I think it is from I'm not sure whether it is in C++. I don't think it is in C++. From C++ onwards, I think global variables are abolished. In Java it is not there, and I think it's Python also it is not there. Even if it is not there, it is not used. So this is for the efficient management and design of softwares. So you just keep in mind the concept called coupling. So this is a concept of basically data coupling. That is the highest level of coupling. That is that meets the industry standard. Only the important data should be passed between the functions, between the submodules, and using a global variance precludes this international or basically industry standard or basically professional standard of coding. When required, you should use, but you should try to understand how important data can be passed across functions, like sending a particular function, some data or some instructions, and getting the desired result back. So that is, it is more of a philosophical thing, but it's very important to keep this in mind. And someone asked me a very good question in the last class, and I'm thankful to him that he asked this question. He asked me whether it is possible to import something in C. So the answer to that question is yes, depending on what you want to import. So we can import some function. So he asked me whether I can import another program to this program. So that is not possible, because then it will mean that the current program, compiled program, will have two mains, right? So that is not possible. A program cannot have two mains, but it can borrow some functionalities from some other program. Only the functionality, like we are borrowing this printf from stdio.h, right? Printf is not a part of this code, right? You are using it from stdio.h. Similarly, you can do something like this. For example, let me show you this. It's called where am I? Common.h. Okay. Maybe should I show you this or what? This is too complicated. Maybe. Okay, you don't have to understand the whole of it. So this is a header file. This is a header file that was given to me in my lab when I was doing PhD at ISI, right? So I was working with Professor Mandar Mitra then. He was not my official supervisor, but he was. He is widely believed to be the people who brought information retrieval to India. So he did his PhD from Cornell University. So in the late 90s he finished, I think. So sometime in that timeline. And Cornell University at that time in computer science was among the top 5 universities in the world. And he did his PhD under Professor Gerard Salton. So Gerard Salton is widely considered to be the father of the topic of the subject information retrieval. So he coined the term information retrieval, and the best scientists of this area are given the Salton Award at CIGIAR in every 2 or 3 years. So CIGIAR is the best conference in information retrieval. It is a core A-star conference. So it is the best conference you can have. The A-star is the highest ranking you can give to a particular conference. So I am fortunate to be a part of his lab. Professor Mandar Mitra. His brother is Mahan Mitra, his elder brother. I don't know whether you know about him. Now I think he's at TIFR, but he is a PhD from Berkeley, UC Berkeley. And he in 2012 or 13 he won the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award. So quite big. So we are among giants. So there, I got this common.h from Mandar sir. So I changed it. So you see that it contains all the header files which you would require. So it contains stdio.h and stdlib, everything is here. And here I have written a function of my own, that is print hello. Okay, so let me try to use this function here. You see that if I try to use this function here, so let's look at this portion of the code. So it is a normal C code. stdio.h I have used because I want to use printf. Yeah, okay. So let me try to do this. So stdio.h, this is a normal C code. And I'm trying to use a function print underscore hello, which is nowhere defined. So let me use this and see what happens. There will be an error. So undefined reference to print hello. It's natural. So this is basically a linking error. Because print hello is not defined anywhere, but it is defined in common.h. So let me try to borrow this from common.h instead. Okay. Let's see if this works. You see that compilation is fine now. So in common.h, I have written a function of my own, print underscore hello. This prints this, and I am using this print hello here. So I'm compiling. I've already compiled this and I'm running it. You see that hello, this is script is getting printed here. If you can see. So basically, this is a toy example to demonstrate that you can write your own header files. So that will be a part. So if you only want to use common.h, you should put all the header files which you might need. So stdio.h is already here. If you don't need anything else, you can remove everything. There are many more complicated functions, so it is not necessary for you to understand them at this point of time. Even I don't know the functionality of most of them. It is the same. So this file open, I think this I have written, and print hello is something which I have written. So this is basically borrowing some user-defined functions from somewhere else. So before this, we have been borrowing some functions which are written in the system provided header files. So now after this point of time, you should be able to write your own header files where you can define functions of your choice, and you can borrow. So this was it. So common.h, you should put it in the same folder. It's better that if you put in the same folder. Yes. So this was about how to design your own header file and how to use some pre-written user-defined functions also. So this has a flavor of import. Okay, so let's move on. I hope this is clear to you.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Sir, for including files like stdio.h,
yes,
he used angular brackets, but for common.h
yeah,
he used.
right. That's a good observation. Yes.
So
So
what is the difference?
angular bracket means that you are using a system defined header file, and double quotes means you are using a header file in the current path. That's the difference. And if you write your own header files, you should use it, within double quotes, but there can be other ways of doing it. But this is the way which I have been using. So if you want to do it, I think it's a most convenient way. So if you put it in angular brackets, it is not going to work, I think, because angular bracket means something else. Let's try to do this. No, it is not going to work. You have to put the double quotes. Whatever it is. It's weird, right? Yeah. So if you put it like this, it will work. Okay then. Yeah. Okay. So we have some time left, so it's better to cover a bit more. So I spent some time on this because I thought that it is very important for you to discuss, important for me to discuss this to you. So let's get started with this data structure. Uh, it is also called abstract data type. So the name of the data structure or abstract data type is stack. So insertion and deletion can take place at only one end. So that is indicated by a top pointer. It is a last in first out kind of a data structure. So it is based. So the insertion can be at one end, that is called the top, and the deletion is based on last in first out policy. Insertion is called the push operation and deletion is called the pop operation. So it has multiple operations, so multiple functionalities. So let's before going into the functionalities, let's look at one demo of what stack does. So this is a stack. You see that insertion and deletion can take place at one end only. So this is the end. So other end is blocked. So unlike an array where you can access any value anywhere. So suppose the array is indexed from 0 to n and you have declared the array of size n and the index is from 0 to n minus 1. So you can directly access the last value, like you can access a n minus 1 if the name of the array is a n minus 1 or a3 a5 anything, but in stack you cannot do that. You can only insert at the top and you can only delete from the top. So the insertion operation is called push. So I am pushing a value 5. So initially it was empty. Now the top, that is the pointer which points to the uppermost value. That is 5 here. Then I push 4. Then you see that 4 sits over 5. So the pointer moves to 4, which means that you cannot access 5 anymore. So what do I mean by accessing? There can be two operations possible. Insertion. So you can insert here or you can delete this one. So in order to get hold of 5, you have to first delete 4. You have to first pop 4. Then I have pushed 3. Then I have pushed 1. So the stack is 1, 3, 4, 5. So this is the top and this is the element under it. 3 is the element under 1, 4 is under 3 and 5 is at the bottom. So you cannot access 3, 4 and 5. And pop operation is the delete operation. So it can be done from the top only. So you can push these variables like these values, push 5, 4, 3 and 1, but you cannot pop a particular value. You have to pop only the first element, the element at the top. So when you do pop, then 1 will go out. So then the top is 3. When you do another pop, 3 will be eliminated. So now the top is 4. You pop again, 4 will be eliminated and the top, this pointer is at 5. Then you pop again, it becomes empty. It sounds weird, but it is very useful. So I mean, I will come to that. So I repeat, this was empty. First I am doing insertion operations. What is that? The name of the insertion operation is push. So I'm pushing 5, then 4, then 3 and then 1. So insertion can be done only at the top and access, you can only access the element at the top. How do you access? If you want to access, you have to pop it. If you want to use 5, then you have to pop 1, 3, 4 and then you can only pop 5. So you see that in this order I am doing, I am popping 5 times. So from 1, 3, 4, 5 it goes to empty. So you look at the values I have pushed and values I have popped. So there is something special about the ordering. Can you tell me what is so special about this ordering? Insertion and deletion. If you compare insertion and deletion, what is so special about the elements which are pushed and the popped? I'm talking of the ordering. Just look at the values and tell me. I push 5 4 3 1, right? And what I do, what I pop 1 3 4 5. So it is reversed, right? So this is, this is a hint that stack can be used to reverse a string also. But that is a very, trivial operation. There are, many more operations. So how to use stack? What is the best way of using basically stack? So now let's come to the point. So in the story, the main character Shankar, his name is Shankar. He goes into a cave, which is basically a labyrinth of caves. So it's not a single entry. At every point, he gets 2 or 3 options, 2 or 3 different paths, and he chooses one path randomly. And after doing this for a pretty long time, he discovers that he's lost because he forgot the last turn. This happened to me also. It happened. So when I went to Italy in 2014, it happened to me. So I was completely lost and I did not know anyone there. And it was 9:13 night. And you see in the European countries, mostly Italy, Belgium, France, if you go there, after 6, most of the shops are closed. Only few of the shops remain open, which are basically the Asian shops. People who are from India or Bangladesh, these shops will open. So I couldn't ask anyone. So I roamed around for about half an hour before actually reaching my destination. Fortunately, I had a map which was offline, which helped me. So what went wrong? The thing is that he failed to keep track of the path which was required for backtracking, right? So suppose you look at the stack. So suppose I start, imagine that you have gone out on an expedition to visit the pandals, puja pandal. So the puja is coming, right? So suppose these are the bus numbers. Okay, so first you take bus number 5, then you take bus number 4, then you take bus number 3, then you take bus number 1, and assume that there is no other path to come back. So if you use a stack, you see that you will see at this point you need to return. So you first pop and see what was the last bus you used. So you need to take that bus to go back. So suppose you are going from one terminal to the other terminal. Let's not complicate things. So you need to go back to where you need to take the previous bus, right? That is 3. So you pop 3. Then you, after you have reached the point where you took the bus 3 towards your, first, direction of journey. In the return journey, you have to go the other direction, right? So then you have to pop the number of the other bus. So that is 4. And finally, you have to take bus number 5. And of course, you have to go back go back to the point where you alighted, bus 5. So you see that this is very important in backtracking. So this is what the computer uses in function calls also, and in branching and bounding and backtracking. So this is extremely important. If you are traversing a very complicated path, you need to know how to go back, right? So for going back, you need a functionality like LIFO, right? Last in, first out. So the thing which entered at the end should be accessed, right? So when you are at this point, you are not interested about bus 5 at this point of time, because you first need to reach up to this point of time, right? So this is a very important application of stack, and it is used in numerous occasions, and it is one of the best discoveries in terms of data structure. I think Alan Turing had something to do with it, and also Conrad Zuse implemented in computer. Without this, function call wouldn't have been possible.